Prince Harry couldn't believe that his mother was gone. Despite what his mind told him that Diana had left this world, he refused to accept the truth. Part of him felt that she would never abandon them, but there was also a fleeting thought in his mind. Could this be part of his mother's plan? Maybe she had decided to disappear for a while and would call them, so they could be by her side for the next 30 years. But that belief shattered on the night King Charles revealed a secret that had been hidden for decades. What Harry had thought was a tragic accident suddenly became much more complicated, forcing him to face a painful truth that he had never realized over the years. The secrets Charles revealed completely changed Harry's perspective on his mother's death, raising questions that had never been asked before. If you find this story interesting, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Don't forget to like, share the video, and comment your thoughts below to let us know. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on other exciting videos. Now let's dive into the story. In a private meeting, King Charles admitted the truth about the final days of Princess Diana. He hinted that there were forces within the palace that wanted her to leave. His words left Harry devastated. His world came crashing down as he learned about the buried diaries, the hidden tapes, and the shocking betrayals from those he had once trusted the most. All memories of the past suddenly seemed meaningless. What really happened to Diana? And could these secrets tear the royal family apart forever? One rainy evening in London, Prince Harry received a call that would completely change his world. The voice on the other end was that of King Charles, but it wasn't the voice of the father Harry remembered from his childhood. It was tired, slow, and there was something in his tone that made Harry feel afraid. Charles asked Harry to meet him alone away from the palace in a private place where no one could disturb them. Harry's heart raced as curiosity and fear intertwined, knowing that whatever his father was about to share would change everything. As Harry stepped into the quiet room, he saw his father looking older than ever, almost fragile. There were no royal servants, no cameras, just the two men, father and son. Charles began to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. He looked into Harry's eyes and said, "There are things I've carried in my heart for 30 years, things I should have told you long ago." Harry felt a lump form in his throat. He never expected his father to open up like this. Charles admitted that he had been hiding a secret that had haunted him every day since Diana's death. When these words left his lips, Harry could hardly breathe. King Charles confessed that Diana's death might not have been an accident, as everyone had believed. He recounted the rumors that had circulated within the palace, the whispers in dark hallways about plans made behind closed doors. Charles's voice trembled as he said, "I never wanted you to know this, but there are forces at work that none of us can control." Harry's mind was in turmoil, filled with unanswered questions. Who were the forces his father had hinted at? What really happened to his mother? For the first time in his life, Harry realized that his own family could be at the heart of the tragedy he had lived with all these years. He left the meeting with King Charles, a man who had shattered everything Harry once knew about the truth. His father's confession was too heavy, and it was only the beginning of a series of events that had been hidden for decades. As Harry staggered out of the room into the cold night, his mind spun with questions about the past, about Diana, and about the family he had trusted for so long. Suddenly, Harry realized that he was facing a painful and difficult truth to accept. The secrets he was about to confront were not only a shock to him, but also a powerful blow to his own family. Perhaps it was the royal family itself that was the deep-rooted cause of the tragedy he had never known. Was everything he had ever believed about his loved ones a deception? These questions haunted Harry as he looked back on the past searching for answers. No one could have imagined that the secrets he was about to face would reopen old wounds that Harry had never truly healed. The denial of a son growing up is understandable. Harry refused to believe that his mother had truly gone, even as the world outside mourned Princess Diana. In the mind of a young Harry, there was a hope that one day she would return, that she would reappear in his life. He remembered sitting by the window in his room waiting for any sign, no matter how small, that his mother might walk through the palace gates and come back. The pain of loss always coexisted with doubt, and Harry would tell himself, "She will never leave us like this." He didn't want to face the truth that she was gone forever. For many years, Harry clung to that fantasy, trying to protect himself from a reality too difficult to face. This denial shaped his entire childhood. To the public, Harry was the spare, always living in the shadow of his older brother, but inside he was just a boy, yearning for his mother's love, for the chance to be with her. Old interviews show Harry's discomfort whenever Diana's name was mentioned. He avoided talking about her, and when pressed, he would quietly respond, "I don't want to think about it." But in reality, behind that answer, was a young man who had never found the closure he needed. A young man still carrying the unhealed pain inside. That pain was an experience that only children who have lost their mothers or parents who have lost their children can truly understand. Harry had once said that, and now, with his father's confession, all the pain he thought had subsided came rushing back. There were times as Harry grew older that he tried to face this pain. He threw himself into royal duties, from military service to wild nights out, hoping these activities could fill the void left by Diana in his soul. But nothing could replace the pain of losing a mother. The royal family seemed too preoccupied with maintaining their dignity, with protecting their image, rather than truly helping Harry heal his emotional wounds. Each passing day, Harry felt an increasing loneliness within himself. He sought comfort in different places, but never found it. His relationship with his father also became more strained as Harry began to realize that the secrets King Charles had kept hidden for all these years were not random. The things his father shared made him feel as though the entire family was living in a facade. Every royal meeting came with a sense of suffocation, coldness, and a lack of genuine love. It seemed that everyone was too preoccupied with protecting the crown, safeguarding the royal reputation, to consider the emotions and pain of the family members themselves. There were times when Harry felt as though he was just a part of a larger play from which no one could escape. Even though he knew that his father had confessed those painful secrets, he still didn't know what to do with the truths he had just heard. These secrets made Harry begin to question everything about himself, about his family, and about all that he had ever believed. Could the royal family ever overcome these dark secrets? Could Harry find peace and healing for the wounds he had carried for so many years? Harry felt isolated, misunderstood, and angry. No one in the family wanted to talk about Diana, and that silence, as heavy as the grief itself, haunted him for many years. It was like a scar that never healed, always present in the quiet moments, when all he could do was sink into his thoughts, recalling that terrifying silence. But as the shock faded, Harry's pain turned into something else, a burning need to know everything. He wanted to understand the truth, what had really happened to Diana, and what role his father, King Charles, and Camilla played in it all. Harry felt ready for the answers, no matter how painful they might be. And that led directly to the next confrontation, when Harry demanded a full confession from Charles. What Charles finally revealed the following day left Harry completely unprepared. He met with his father again, this time with the determination not to let Charles avoid any question. Harry's voice remained steady but intense. "I need to know everything, Dad, no more secrets." Charles appeared defeated, as if the weight of 30 years was bearing down on him. He hesitated, then finally began to speak. "There were people in the palace who wanted Diana to disappear," Charles admitted. He never looked Harry in the eye. The words hung in the air, heavy and unforgiving. Charles explained that after years of tragedy and scandal, the palace was desperate for stability. He said he felt immense pressure from the institution, from old friends, and even from some members of his own family to move on and remarry. It was clear to everyone. Charles said, "I could never marry Camilla while Diana was alive." Harry listened in shock as his father described a cold logic that seemed to guide every decision behind the palace walls. There were whispers that the monarchy would be safer, stronger, and more respected if Diana was no longer around. The hardest part for Harry to hear was Charles's admission that Camilla might have encouraged him to take decisive steps. "Camilla wanted a future with me," Charles admitted. "And some people believed the only way for me to move forward was for Diana to become a widow." Charles admitted that he didn't outright say that Camilla had planned anything, but the implication was clear. She had been involved more than anyone had ever known. "There were secret meetings, conversations I couldn't stop," Charles said softly. Harry sat still, unable to decide whether he felt angrier or more heartbroken. His father's words echoed in Harry's mind as he left the room, knowing that the truth had been exposed, but the consequences were only just beginning. Now Harry had to look deeper into the shadow of Camilla, into Diana's missing diaries, and the secrets still buried within the palace walls. The answers Harry sought seemed to lie in Camilla's shadow, and as he dug deeper into his father's confession, another hidden world began to emerge. The questions Harry had never imagined now posed a threat to everything he had once believed about his family. One name kept recurring: Camilla. The woman who had always stood in Diana's shadow suddenly became the center of everything. Harry remembered as a boy witnessing his mother's anguish whenever Camilla's name was mentioned. Charles's insinuations about Camilla's ambition left Harry stunned. "You have to understand that she wanted this a life with me, Harry. She wanted it so badly." Charles had said, his eyes filled with regret. It wasn't just Charles's words that made Harry question everything but the whispers among the palace staff about Camilla's silent influence. She wasn't loud, but she was everywhere advising Charles on important meetings and always seemed to know more than anyone else. After Diana's death, Camilla's position changed overnight. She shifted from an elusive presence to claiming her place in the royal family. Some insiders claim that Camilla had encouraged Charles not to reconcile with Diana, pushing him toward a life where she could ultimately stand beside him as something even more secretive. Harry also recalled moments from his youth when Camilla's shadow was almost suffocating. He had overheard arguments between his parents, Diana's voice trembling with pain as she said, "There are 3 of us in this marriage." Now, as an adult, Harry couldn't help but wonder if Camilla had done more than just wait in the wings, if she had influenced decisions at the highest levels, if she had been the driving force behind Diana's departure so that she could become queen. Harry's anger had turned into obsession, But before he could confront Camilla or demand answers from anyone else, Charles dropped another bombshell. Diana had left behind a diary and tapes. These were her final warnings, her deepest fears, and possibly her last pieces of evidence. Now Harry needed to uncover what his mother had truly left behind and why it had been hidden for so long. Diana's fears in the days following her father's confession continued to haunt Harry. He couldn't shake the thought that Diana had been trying to warn him. Charles admitted to having hidden Diana's personal diary and a set of cassette tapes. These weren't just ordinary diaries. They were filled with her genuine fears, her hopes for Harry and William, and her suspicions that her life was in danger. Charles's reasoning was simple. "I wanted to protect you from her pain, Harry. You were too young." If you find this story interesting and want to learn more, don't forget to share the video, and leave your comments below to let us know your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on other exciting videos. Now let's continue the story together. But Harry saw the diary as a way to control the truth. To him, the diary was Diana's safe place, where she had written numerous handwritten notes about secret meetings in the palace and the pressures she faced daily. Some entries described her feelings even following and being watched. "I fear for my safety, for my sons, and for what the crown might do to keep secrets," Diana wrote. The audio tapes were even more haunting. In them, Diana spoke directly to her sons, her voice trembling as she explained her love for them and her deep concern that something terrible might happen to her. Harry was stunned by what Charles confessed. For 30 years, these tapes and the diary had been locked away, never meant to be seen or heard. Diana had tried to escape the past, but the royal family had ensured that her voice was silenced. Harry felt not only robbed of his mother's guidance, but also denied the chance to truly understand her pain and protect himself from the dangers she had faced. Harry's next step was clear. He had to expose everything the palace had tried to keep secret. But as he began to search for Diana's hidden words, he started to realize how deep the cover-up went. The palace had worked for 30 years to bury the past, and Harry was about to discover how far they were willing to go to keep the secret. The palace's cover-up, the search for Diana's missing diary and tapes, revealed a shocking pattern. Nothing in the royal family happened by chance. Charles's confession was not just about his personal guilt, but also pointed to a larger, colder effort to bury Diana's story forever. The palace servants had sworn to keep secrets, were threatened with losing their jobs, and some even signed lifetime non-disclosure agreements. No one ever spoke about Diana unless it was to praise her publicly. A former staff member was called in, but behind closed doors, her name became a warning. Harry discovered stories about mysterious documents disappearing from the palace archives. Key witnesses who had spoken to Diana or assisted her were quickly dismissed, demoted, or had their reputations ruined in the public eye. Even Scotland Yard, the unit handling the investigation into Diana's accident, was allegedly instructed to avoid any clues pointing to the palace's involvement. "We were instructed to focus solely on the accident, not any larger picture," a retired investigator admitted. "The royal machine seems unstoppable when it comes to self-preservation." Additionally, there was evidence showing that Diana's friends had tried to speak out, but were faced with pressure to remain silent. Journalists who had investigated too deeply suddenly found their access to the press revoked. Harry read emails between palace officials, strategizing to block any stories that questioned the official narrative. Silence wasn't natural. It was enforced, and Harry could see that the reputation of his family was always placed above the truth. Everything was about image. A senior assistant once said, "It's not the pain, not the real story, just the image." Now more determined than ever, Harry knew he had to face his pain and his anger. From the very beginning, the cover-up had stolen more than just memories. It had taken away his mother's voice and his own sense of belonging. What happened next would push Harry to his limits as he confronted the painful reality of betrayal and suffering within his own family. His collapse as he finally pieced together what had been hidden for so long revealed something inside him had broken. He had carried the image of his mother as a woman who was hurt and loved, misunderstood by the world. Now Harry realized that his mother had not only been misunderstood, but also actively silenced by those closest to him. After speaking with Charles and witnessing the ongoing cover-up, Harry's broken heart turned into real rage. He stormed out of the palace, not caring who saw him. His hands were clenched, and his eyes burned with fury. For the first time, he saw the royal family as a cage, not a home. In the days that followed, Harry's pain only grew stronger. He isolated himself from everyone, even Meghan and Archie. He spent hours alone thinking that he had recreated the image of his father. The repeated words echoed in his mind, "I did what I thought was best for the crown and for you." To Harry, this was not protection. It was betrayal. He felt as though he had lost his mother all over again, but this time he was mourning the father he thought he understood. How could you stop her from coming to me? How could you decide that I didn't deserve her truth? Harry wondered, his emotions conflicted, unable to bear the betrayal and the cover-up his own family had placed over the memories of his mother. Harry cried and slammed his hand on the table. The pain wasn't just an emotion, it was reflected in everything Harry did. He canceled public events and ignored the royal messages. He stopped answering calls from the palace and even avoided his brother for days. Meghan was worried about him, but Harry couldn't explain it to her. The pain was too much. He felt like he had been deceived his entire life. Finally, he spoke to her, his voice trembling. "They took her voice away from me and they took my trust away." Harry's anger wasn't just directed at his father, but also at everyone who had helped cover up Diana's story. But before Harry could take action, he needed to understand exactly why Charles and the palace had gone so far to conceal Diana's story. Was the true motive behind 30 years of secrecy really to protect? Or was it just selfishness disguised as royal duty? Harry was about to get an answer he never expected. What was Charles's motive when Harry finally confronted him? He was fed up with half-truths. "Why did you do this? Was it for the family or just for yourself?" Harry demanded. Cornering Charles, who, exhausted from trying to defend himself, explained, "Everything I did was to protect you, to protect the monarchy, and to keep our family from falling apart." He went on to explain that Diana's diary and tapes could tear the royal family apart if they were ever revealed. Keeping them hidden was in his eyes an act of love. But Harry only saw fear and a self-preservation instinct. Charles claimed that he was trapped, feeling pressure from the palace's senior advisors, and even from the press, all warning that Diana's words would destroy the monarchy. "I was repeatedly told, 'This will ruin us, Charles. The monarchy won't survive another scandal.' He said, 'The institution must always come first, no matter the cost to life.'" But Harry was tired of the excuses. He placed the crown above his son. He chose silence over the truth. Harry responded in a flat voice, yet full of pain, and the emotional distance between father and son grew wider with each word Charles spoke. Harry realized that his father's reasoning always revolved around the same themes: image, legacy, and duty. Yet not once did Charles mention Diana's happiness, her safety, or Harry's need to know the real story about his mother. It was all about the throne and what the world thought of the family. For Harry, it was clear that protecting the monarchy had become more important than protecting those within it. "You care about the crown, not us," Harry whispered. The truth settled like a cold shadow as news of Harry's conflict with Charles spread. The pressure shifted to Camilla. The world wanted to know how much she knew, whether she was just an outsider or if she had been part of the plan from the very beginning. Harry was about to find out, and the answer would shake the royal family to its core. Camilla was being scrutinized. It didn't take long for the whispers about Camilla to turn into a storm. As soon as the news leaked that Harry was digging up old secrets, the media went into a frenzy, questioning how Camilla could go from being a secret lover to queen so quickly. Old scandals resurfaced: love letters, late-night calls, and Diana's infamous quote, "There are 3 of us in this marriage, so it's a bit crowded." But now everyone was wondering whether Camilla had just been waiting in the shadows or if she had helped pave the way for her future within the palace. Camilla felt an unprecedented level of heat. Staff members followed her as she avoided questions and skipped public events. There were stories about her lobbying Charles to keep Diana's tapes and diary hidden, urging him not to dig up the past. Some insiders even claimed that Camilla had encouraged Charles not to reconcile with Diana, hoping to secure her own place beside him. She had always wanted to become queen. One assistant revealed that she knew her path would only be clear if Diana were to leave. Public opinion quickly turned against Camilla. Protesters gathered outside the royal gates with banners demanding answers. TV commentators debated her role, with some calling her a survivor, while others labeled her an opportunist. Every action she took was scrutinized. Even her old friends began to distance themselves, not wanting to get caught up in the new scandal. The royal PR team hastily issued carefully worded statements, insisting Camilla had nothing to hide, but the rumors grew louder as her past was exposed and public outrage intensified. Harry knew it was time to share what he had discovered. Diana's lost diary and tapes would soon see the light of day, bringing her voice back after 30 years of silence. The next step would change everything, not only for Harry, but for the entire monarchy. The legacy that had been lost now came back when Harry finally held the hidden diary and tapes of Diana, feeling as if he were meeting her again. He locked himself in his office, pressed play, and listened to the trembling voice of his mother from decades ago. "If anything happens to me, look to the palace," Diana warned in one of the tapes. Her words were filled with love for Harry and William, but also with fear and doubt. Those words cut deep into Harry's heart. He could feel the worry in his mother's voice, as well as the tension and fear she had endured in her final months. He realized that what she had gone through was not just stories from the past, but a direct warning from history that he could not ignore. The tapes recount secret meetings, strange cars following her, and the loneliness that came with royal life. Reading Diana's diary was just as powerful. The pages were filled with confessions, warnings, and sometimes raw despair. She wrote about her fear that her sons would be raised in a system that did not protect her. "Promise me, my sons, that you will always watch over each other. she wrote shakily. She described moments when she thought someone was trying to scare her or even harm her. Each page of the diary was a new window into her world. A world full of danger, but also full of love for Harry. The tapes and the diary were not just heirlooms, but also evidence that his mother had seen the danger ahead and tried to leave a path for her sons. She wanted them to know the truth, not just the royal version, but her version as well. This was also his story. Diana said in one of her recordings, her voice breaking. In the end, Harry understood how his mother had fought to protect him even after she had passed away. But as Harry prepared to make Diana's truth public, the palace was in chaos. Officials tried to suppress the story, hoping once again to silence Diana's voice. But this time, the world was paying attention, and nothing could stop what was about to unfold. The next chapter would challenge the royal family like never before. The palace was thrown into panic as news spread that Harry had Diana's diary and tapes. Buckingham Palace fell into complete chaos. The halls were filled with whispers and emergency phone calls. Senior aides rushed into urgent meetings, with some demanding to take the documents from Harry by force. "This is a family matter," an official insisted. But even those inside could see that this was bigger than anything the palace had faced in decades. Lawyers drafted statements warning Harry not to go public. The PR team prepared bland responses for the press, hoping to control the damage. Some tried to blame outsiders, implying that old wounds were being exploited for personal gain. But the truth became harder and harder to hide with each passing hour. Palace staff were concerned that once the tapes were released, everything from the Queen's reign to Charles's future would be at risk. "If this is revealed, the monarchy will never recover," a royal advisor whispered. Behind the scenes, there was a real fear that some senior royals wanted to sever all ties with Harry, stripping him of all titles and privileges. Others, especially the younger members of the family, had quietly reached out to him to ask what Diana had said and whether it matched their own memories of her. Even William, after weeks of silence, finally called Harry and asked to hear the tapes. The old royal unity was fracturing in real time, and nothing could bring them together again, except when the palace was in panic and public outrage grew louder. Harry faced a final decision. Would he release everything at once, risking complete chaos, or would he try to bring his brother in to share the truth about Diana with the family before sharing it with the world? Either way, history was about to be rewritten, and there was no stopping the global wave of reactions. The first leak happened quietly. A journalist close to Harry received a copy of one of Diana's tapes, in which she said, "Don't let them tell you who you are. You know your heart." Within hours, society and the media exploded with the hashtag #LetDianaSpeak, which became a worldwide trend. People of all ages posted memories of Diana and shared their anger at the royal cover-up. News outlets replayed excerpts of Diana's voice for the first time in years. The public was not divided. They united in support of Diana and her sons. Support for Harry poured in from all over the world. Strangers left flowers outside Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace. Protesters demanded transparency and justice, waving signs that read, "Diana's voice matters." Television hosts, royal experts, and former staff, some called for resignations, while others demanded a full investigation. Even those who had never cared about the royal family before were moved by Diana's story. The nation's pain was raw and real, while the monarchy's silence only made everything worse. Each day they refused to comment, and many wondered what else was being hidden. Some called for Charles and Camilla to resign. Others wondered if William would support his brother or stand with the institution. Harry felt the wave of support and decided to release more of Diana's recordings, always carefully protecting her most private confessions, but determined that it was time for her to finally speak out. At this moment, when the public demanded change and the monarchy was shaken to its core, Harry faced his final crossroads. Would exposing everything heal the royal family or destroy it forever? His next step would decide not only his own future, but the future of the crown itself. Harry's crossroads and the fate of the monarchy after Diana's voice returned to the world. Harry stood at a crossroads that no royal family had ever faced before. The monarchy was in turmoil, the future uncertain. William and Harry had once been very close, but now they stood on opposite sides of a family war. Some urged Harry to keep fighting to finish what his mother had started, while others begged him to step back and protect what was left of his family from complete destruction. Harry met privately with Meghan and a few close friends to consider his options. He could reveal all the secrets, every page of Diana's diary and every word of her tapes, or he could try to use what he knew to bring about real change quietly behind closed doors. This wasn't just about revenge or headlines. Harry told Meghan that it was about ensuring no one would be silenced again. His decision would shape the legacy of the royal family for generations to come. As Harry looked out at the crowd, the reporters and the world waiting for his next move, he remembered his mother's words on the tape. "You are braver than you think." No matter what happens next, Harry knew he could never go back whether the crown survived or crumbled. Diana's story would live on in the hearts and minds of the public, and for the first time, the story was being told by her sons, not by the institution that had once tried to silence them. It was a moment that changed everything. Finally, Harry and William Diana's two sons could speak the truth that had been hidden for so long. Now, with Diana's truth finally revealed, nothing would ever be the same for Prince Harry or the royal family. Not just the royal family, but the entire world was facing an unprecedented crisis. The questions that had long been asked, the secrets that had been hidden would now be exposed, and nothing could go back to how it was before. The public's outrage was a fire that would be hard to extinguish, and Harry knew he had made a decision that could not be undone, no matter how painful it was. The world was demanding answers. Questions about Diana, about Camilla's role, and about the betrayal faced by the entire royal family would not simply fade away. The crown was facing its greatest crisis yet, and right now, public attention was not just focused on a wealthy and powerful royal family, but on the deep secrets within that family. Secrets not only concerning Diana, but also about those who had silenced her. As Harry stood at a crossroads, he realized that the decision he made would not only change his life, but also affect the future of the monarchy. Would revealing these secrets bring healing or destroy the monarchy forever? Would it open a new era where the truth is valued and protected, or would it drive the royal family to the brink of complete collapse? That was the question Harry had to face, and there was no easy answer. It was a struggle between the past and the future, between what he believed was right and what he had to sacrifice to achieve justice. How could he face his loved ones, the people he cherished, but who had also caused him pain and betrayal he couldn't accept? These decisions weren't just about him. They were about how the monarchy would be remembered and judged in history. Harry met privately with Meghan and a few close friends weighing his options. He could reveal all the secrets, every page of Diana's diary and every word from her tapes. Or he could try to use what he knew to bring about real change quietly behind closed doors. This wasn't about revenge or headlines. Harry told Meghan that it was about ensuring no one would be silenced again. He knew that regardless of the outcome, his decision would profoundly affect future generations of the royal family. His decision would shape the legacy of the royal family for generations to come. As Harry looked out at the crowd, the reporters, and the world waiting for his next move, he remembered his mother's words on the tape, "You are braver than you think." Those words were like a final encouragement, urging him to do what was right, no matter what would come next, no matter what happens next. Diana's words still echoed in his mind, guiding him toward the most important decision of his life. If you find this story captivating and want to keep following the secrets, untold stories, and dramatic twists within the royal family, don't forget to share this video with your friends and family so everyone can discover it. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next episodes.